What's up, everybody? It's your boy Stocks Pharrell, and today, like every week, we're talking about the options trades. We got the Minnows, the Dolphins, and the Orcas. Now, some of y'all are new, right? Some of y'all don't know what the heck I'm talking about. What is Rail talking about when he's talking about these fish, right? Well, your boy likes to fish on his downtime, like to golf, and like to do other things. But one thing that just brings me peace is when I'm out fishing. It also takes me back to my grandpa, and it's something that he loved to do. So that's how the analogy came up with the Minnows, the Dolphins, and the Orcas. Now, why am I using those specific analogies? Well, I use it or created it in order to differentiate the levels of traders we have in this market. For example, we have various stages of the game that all traders are in. Right, so the Minnows, that's anybody that's trading a smaller account. Maybe they're just newer to the game and they got a bag, but they're just trying to get their feet wet, trying to understand the market a little bit, but just new to the options game. So Minnow plays is any options trades that's pretty much under $50. Okay, then you got the Dolphins. These are our intermediate traders, those that's been around for a little bit, and just finding their way, finding their strategy at this point. They understand enough to where they know what path they need to take to get to where they want to be, right? And then these individuals may have a little bit of a bag, may want to take a little bit more risk, and these are individuals that are trading anywhere from $50 to $200, okay? Then you got the Orcas, the whales, the sharks, right? The megalodons, right? We have those big pocket guys, or those guys who just been around the block for a while. They understand the risk. They can take on more risk, maybe, right? They understand risk management, and they have a little bit more of a larger portfolio to bet towards these options. And these individuals will be looking at trades for contracts over $200, right? So, but that doesn't mean that a Minnow can't play an Orca play, or an Orca can't play a Minnow play, a Dolphin can't play either or, whatever, right? These are just gauges, right? So you guys can have an understanding of what or who I'm talking to, right? I've come to the realization that when you look into the market, as far as the YouTube or whatnot, there's an saturation of individuals that they made it. They might be millionaires, they might you might have a bigger bag, and but we fail to realize that there's still a lot of people pouring into this game that don't really have that they're willing to lose. So we need to try to find a way to cater to those individuals as well. All right, so that's why this is here. That is why the platform is designed the way it is, right? So without further ado, this is your boy Stocks Pharrell, and today I got something for all three, for the Minnows, the Dolphins, and the Orcas, and we're about to get right into it. At the end of the day, we have SOFI. We're going to be working on SOFI call options. And the reason why I'm doing calls and not puts is just because I'm kind of like a perma bull when it comes to SOFI. I'm looking more for the floor of SOFI and looking to ride that wave up versus the other way around. Now, some of you guys already know that your boy hopped into some cash secure puts, to which expired on Friday. That means that I sold, I want to say 12 contracts, which means that I would have 1,200 shares of SOFI by that expiring. And then my strike price on that was $7. I'm going to get into that in another video as far as how I swung that, as well as what I did with NVIDIA in the same play in another video. But for now, I'm going to read you a little news as far as what's bullish about the company, and then I'm going to show you the charts, and then I'm going to give you the entries, exits, and the take profit targets so you guys can be up on game, okay? A couple things. I felt this is highlighted in green, but it's wrong. But essentially, somebody did sell off some shares. It's not a big deal. They still own 226,000 shares of SOFI, but they sold on March 20th at $12.72 a share. This is supposed to be highlighted in red. I messed up. It is what it is. SoFi is trading positive, more so sideways than anything. We did climb up to about the $18 region once we hit 4 quarters of profitability, and now we're just waiting and waiting for the market overall to find a foundation, um, um, so SoFi can continue in the right direction. Now SoFi's beat up. We all know that. It is what it is. Main reason is because they're just super conservative with their guidance, and that's just gonna be the way it is. It is what it is. They are the type to under promise and over deliver, and they have been doing so quarter after quarter, and I don't expect that to change anytime soon. Okay, so this in red was supposed to be green, but it is what it is. SoFi finalized a $5 billion loan platform business, an agreement for personal loans with funds managed by Blue Owl Capital. That's what I was referring to. My mistake. So it's the largest platform business agreement to date. SoFi loan platform business refers to pre-qualified borrowers to loan origination partners, as well as it originates loans on behalf of the third parties. The 2-year deal with Blue Owl managed funds reflect the growing demand for personal loans from members and debt investors. So the loan platform is pretty big. SoFi Relay, pretty big, right? Student loans, pretty decent size there. So a lot of bullish stuff that's really going on with SoFi. There's really no reason for the stock to be pulled back so far, with the exception of the market just kind of pulling back and coming down. So it is what it is. I'm still bullish on SoFi until the fundamentals change. Anyway, let's look at the charts. Okay, so I'm showing you a bullish chart more so than anything. It looks bearish. However, if you have been following my videos, you do know that I was stating that we're looking to hop into dollar cost average into SoFi calls once we hit around like 1148 or something around that range. Okay, but now we are running up. We're in the overnight hours on Robinhood, and we're over $13.37, if I'm not mistaken, at the time of this recording. Right. So a couple things. We do have MFI curling up. This is a positive bullish signal. You see that here, right? But we're going to be looking for calls or dollar cost averaging into longs at 1357. So if we can hit above here, find support, then great. I'm starting my position. I already have a position, so it's not a big deal. I'm going to show you that position as well. I've been talking about SoFi for a minute, but either which way, you can see that this is a Minnow confirmation. It's a Minnow confirmation because I got one confirmation towards the upside. We have bullish volume. However, bullish volume, we have this MFI curling up after having been oversold. So now we pretty much need to cross this signal line of 52.38 and get above 1357 with bullish momentum and confirmation, so we can be more confident in the direction that we're going. So not a strong confirmation there because overall the market is in a downtrend, and it is what it is. Essentially, this is the contract I'm looking at. Okay, so we have the $14 strike expiring April 17th. It's a $37 contract. $37 is under $50, which would make it a Minnow play, right? I have 4 of these positions right now. I should be more aggressive, but I'm just being patient because I have no idea what's going to happen in the market. I'm optimistic for some bullishness, but it is what it is. We got war, we got tariffs, we got all this other stuff we got just going on. And then on top of that, we got some earnings coming up. All right, so you can see though we have good volume here on this contract with an open interest of nearing 15,000. Okay, I have 4 positions as you can see, and it's a Minnow play. All right, so entry, exit, take profit, max take profit. Entry is 1357, exit is 1302, take profits 1412, and max profit is 1648. Now again, when I say entry, that means we need confirmation going into that level. Okay, either it's straight above or we have bullish momentum into it. Same thing with the exits. If we hit 1302, I'm not exiting. It's not a hard stop for me. We have to pay attention to price action. You have to understand that. If you don't understand price action, then Google it, okay? Or join the community. You can find me at KGU, or you can find me, we have our own Discord here for Sacrifice for Riches, Stocks for Real. So just become a member and we'll talk about it. All right. So that being said, we're going to move on over to Tesla. Now, Tesla, I deemed it as a Dolphin play. Dolphin, remember, is anybody that has contracts or willing to pay for contracts, $50 to $200. Now, you have to understand when I'm giving you these ranges, it's based on your budget, okay? So let's say you have a budget of $200, right? Well, you can go over and do a Minnow play and you can buy 4 contracts for $200, right? You're good to go. So, so you can still work it that way. But if your budget is $200, then maybe you can only pay for 1 Dolphin play. It really just depends on the contract that I post, but we're going to get into it, okay? So anyway, news on Tesla. So Wedbush, I'm not a big fan of Wedbush. They have, you know, it is what it is. I'm not a big fan of them, but either which way, they still maintain a buy rating for Tesla for of $550. Where are we in Tesla? Not anywhere close to $550. We're going to talk about it, right? Currently, the high for Tesla is 550, the median is 335, and then the low is 120. Of course, we're trading between the low and the median. All right, so we have a pretty good upside, about 34%, with where we are at this present moment. Okay. The downside is that Morgan Stanley is weighing in on SOFI. SOFI is always on my brain, on Tesla, because of like the sales being slowing down. It's more than just sales. It's Elon being in government. It's the whole Doge budget or government cuts and stuff like that. There's a lot going on, and pretty much anything that Elon does is outside of Tesla. It can be seen as negative, and it can be seen as a distraction from the company and from the business. Now, I think he has everything handled. Whether you're a fan or whatever of Elon or not a fan, it is what it is. At the end of the day, you can't really knock a guy's work ethic when he's juggling X, SpaceX, Tesla, and now government, Doge, right? Department of whatever it is, government efficiencies. I think that's what it's called. But anyway, but Morgan Stanley, you got to be careful with when they come out, when their analyst comes out with negative news towards the company that they've been consistently bullish on, right? I tend to think when these when big banks or whatever or analysts are talking negatively or down on a company that they own so much of, it's just a FUD. You know, they're just pumping FUD into the market. You do your own research. However, I'm not really being wavered by this negative analyst comments towards SoFi, towards Tesla. So you do what you got to do, but I think Tesla essentially is a buy. But it is what it is. Okay, so if you guys have been following me, if you're in the Discord, if you're in KGU, if you followed a previous video, I called out that Tesla calls is a full send if we crack $245.05, which we did. Okay, so we did that and we're on our way. At the time of this recording, we're already at, I want to say, 251. Are we already at 251? We're up there. Hold on. I think I got time without making this video super long to just check. I'm doing this live. Tesla. We're at 255. All right, so we're already at the take profit target number 2, right? In the overnight hours, that is. So that's a pretty big win. Now, I'm in on Tesla already, right? And I called it out. And I know some of us are on the same rail train. Let's get it, right? But we'll see what happens. Overnight hours is one thing. We have to see what happens when the market opens. But as of right now, this is where it is. We have a max take profit up here. We're going to get into it. But the main thing I want to point out before I move on to the contract that I'm in and the entries and exits is this yellow arrow right here. I went back in time. And every time that Tesla has crossed this level and found support with the increased volume, bullish volume, we've gone ahead and for the most part touched this line. And I think I want to say I counted 8 times during the live stream with the Discord. So I'm just saying history sometimes repeats itself. And we might not get all the way to the top, but hey, I'm predicting that we at least get to 262, but time will tell. All right. So notice we have demand zones. We have another demand zone. This is a previously known demand zone. That's blue right here. And we have a previously known supply zone. Okay, so we do have some barriers to get through. Previous demands become new resistances. So we just need to break through these walls before we can just go on an absolute rocket. Time will tell, see if that'll happen, right? It's like, where's my smoke? We got to keep my smoke on there. All right. One moment. Okay, so that being said, let's move on. So this is well level confirmation. Well level confirmation means that I have 3 or more confirmations that we are more bullish on Tesla than bearish. Okay. Confirmation number 1 was volume. Confirmation number 2 was confirmation above 245. Confirmation number 3 is once we exceeded this previously known demand zone, and then confirmation number 4 is when I look back in time, I seen what I seen. This big yellow came into play, and it is what it is. We're above the EMAs. Let's go. So that being said, this is a contract that I am currently in. I wish I grabbed more. Notice that we're at a 272.50 strike, and then this contract costs $163. Now, what's wrong with this contract? Well, what's wrong with this contract is that it's so far out the money, right? Because essentially, before the market closed, I was already up from 245 to 249, right? So I was up $4, darn near $5. Now, if I had played a closer to the end of money contract, I probably would have been up 100 to 200%, no problem. However, the closer you are to end in the money, the more expensive those contracts are, and I like to do my best to cater the contracts that I grab to the audience or the traders that follow me. Now, this isn't the nicest contract to get. However, this is affordable to some. You have to take what you can get. Some people got into this Tesla play and making a lot of money right now, a lot more than me, and it is what it is. But just know that we have a good, healthy volume at 5,648 with open interest of nearing 14 stacks. So this is a Dolphin contract. Let's move on. Entry. Okay. Entry is 245.05. Exit 245.05. Again, understand we're looking for confirmation above to be entry, confirmation below to be exit. Now, if we open up at 255, right, where our take profit target 2 is, that means that we're pretty far away from the exit of where our initial entry was. Now, of course, if we do open that way, then what do? We take the previous take profit target and we use that as our potential exit area as well. So, but that area being a previous demand, we will be looking for pure weakness through demand, but we will not sell if we fall into this box. So just because we hit 251.76 doesn't mean that it's time to exit the play. We have to pay attention to price action and what do we do around that level. Okay, moving on. Take profit 251.76. Again, that's assuming we open here, and of course if we open up here, then you see our next take profit targets. All right, we got 255.12. You have 258.47 at 262 and 255 or 265 and 268, and max take profit target of 271.91. That's the business, and I hope it works out for you guys. But we're not done because I got something for the orcas, the whales, the sharks. Let's go. Next up, we are looking at the orca play, and this is the SPY, right? So the SPY we don't play. I'm already giving you a sneak peek here. You see the 563, blah, 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 but we're just gonna keep going. This is the start of earnings weeks with the SPY, S&P, all that good stuff. And we have a few good tickers on deck this week. A couple that stands out to me would be GameStop being a meme stock play. Never know what's gonna happen with that. You got Chewy. I'm a big fan of Chewy. I've been trading it. I've made multiple videos on that. If you are interested in Chewy, I would highly recommend you look back into my videos and just get a sense of what my take is on the company, because I am an owner of shares and we've been calling Chewy since it fell down to $14, and we've ridden that train all the way back up to 30 where we are right now, and I'm still holding positions. So let's go. We got Cintas, not a big deal, but we got Petco and Lulu. Okay, so when I look at like these stocks, specifically the Chewy and the Petco, I know you might think not think it's a big deal, but I look at it to see where this consumer sentiment is as far as spending. Now, I know we have our economic data. It is what it is. We're going to talk about that, what you see on the screen. However, at the end of the day, if people are spending money on their pets and their pet insurance, then that just gives me a little, little comfort that we doing all right, right? So that's what that means, right? So essentially, I gave news all throughout the week when it comes to the market. Now this is a 20-minute video, and that's because I combined all of the levels. But let's see if we can speed it up. But anyway, I gave you news, economic news from start to finish for the past 2 weeks, right? So now let's sum it all up. Here's the bullish outlook on it. So the Fed holds rates at 4.5%. No surprise hikes. We keeping the borrowing cost stable, right? Industrial productions is 0.7% versus a 0.2% expectations, which indicates a strong factory output equals economic resilience. Okay, so the housing also starts at 1.5 million versus 1.38 million. More home building bullish equals bullish for real estate and construction. Okay, we had capacity utilization at 78.2%, which is factories running efficiently, signaling a strong demand. Okay, then we have retail sales rebounding. Okay, the consumer spending still is holding up despite minor misses. So overall, the economy shows strength in supporting a bullish market sentiment if inflation fears stays in control. Okay, on the bearish side of things, we had an unemployment claim of 224,000 versus 220K forecast. Job market showing slight weakness. Okay, so we got Philly Fed manufacturing at 8.8 versus 18.1 prior. It's a big drop, signaling a slowing of manufacturer growth. Okay, so then we had exiting home sales at 3.95 million versus 4.08 prior, right? So housing markets weakening, bearish for real estate. Okay, so retail sales miss. That was one at 0.2% versus 0.6% expected. So consumers are spending slow. The spending is slowing down, raising demand concerns. Now, this is kind of contradicting a little bit, and that's why this week is kind of important, because one metric can say one thing, but we got to get to the real brass tacks, and that's what these companies are going to report. That's going to be your real telltale as far as what's happening with the consumers. Okay, so on top of that, we also had the import prices, which was up 0.4% versus negative 0.1%, which was expected. So inflation pressures could keep Feds cautious on cuts. It is to be expected. We're still expecting about 2 rate cuts for the year. Will it happen? Time will tell. All right. But again, we don't know the future. We only know what we know. Overall, the weak job data, slowing housing, and sticky inflation could pressure markets bearish if sentiment shifts, risk off. Okay, so let's see what happens. Like I said, with the SPY, I had some well level confirmation. We had huge buying or bullish volume, buying volume going into the close on Friday. We're above the EMAs. That's a 7-day. It is what it is. We had demand. Demand was followed by imbalance, which just signals a strong move towards the upside. This helps with my confirmation. We were headed to an early entry on a call or puts, depends on how price reacted to this level. However, looking at the market right now in the overnight hours, the SPY is currently at $568. So we closed at 565. We're already at above my take profit 2 target at the time of this recording. Okay, so will we stay there? I don't know, but I do know that is a supply zone, so sellers do live in this area at 568.13. Okay, so essentially, if we fall out of that and we fall below 566, then we could see some downside, and you could use those take profit targets towards the downside as initial exits, or I guess take profit targets towards the downside if we fall out of supply. Okay, but be careful, because there's not a lot of room to fall from 566 to 565, right? So we may see a little retracement down to 565.12, which is why I have it tagged as an early entry on calls or puts, depends on how the price reacts to that. In the perfect world, we'll love to see SPY gain ground and get above the 569.17, but to be determined, right? So you see the chart. We're going to go over here and I'm going to show you what the contract looks like. We got the SPY 570 call, which expires on the 28th. Now you can play a sooner to date contract, but I'm giving us some time. Okay, now you can get a cheaper contract too, because notice that my max take profit target is $580. So if you so choose, I would say that it might be okay to get a strike price of $572 or $575, but this one is $285 at the $570 strike, which would make for a well play because it's over $200, right? And I should have updated the tag at the bottom. It says 50 to 200, but it's supposed to be 200 plus. Nonetheless, look at the value. We're at 47,000 with an open interest of over 9,500. Okay, so that's pretty solid and a nice delta at 36. This is a pretty healthy contract, and that's why I chose it for our whales, our orcas, our sharks, our megalodons. Let's go. All right, so what do we got? So we got our entry at 563 to 565. Now, of course, like I already told you, if we open up above where we at 568, then our entry is going to be 569.17, confirmation above that level, with our first take profit target from this point at 572. But we're not there. We don't know how we're going to open, so we can only play with what we know. Let's pretend like we don't know the overnight hours. So exit is unknown. The reason why I put unknown is because essentially it depends on where we are, right? We have to use our previous take profit targets as potential exits. Otherwise, if we open up and we're falling into demand, then I'm buying in demand, which is under 563.26, and my stop loss at that point would be 561.53. Does that make sense? I hope it does. But if we open up and we're looking to enter it at 569, well, then I'm going to look at 568 or 566 as my potential exit. Not as hard stops, y'all. Not as hard stops. I'm watching price action. I'm watching volume. I'm watching things to make sure that it makes sense for me to exit my position. Pay attention. All right. If you're a member, you'll be up on the plays, okay, in live time, because I'll be playing them with you. Right. So that's your max take profit target of 580.75. Will we make it there? I don't know. But guess what I did? I gave us a week. I gave us time to see if we can. Right? This is not a overnight trade or like a single day trade or intraday trade. This is, hey, I might be able to hold this for 2 to 3 days and then get what I want out of this play to the fullest. So let's see what's going to happen. All right, so this is your boy Stocks for Real. Hopefully you can appreciate that. I'm sorry this video was a little long, but I combined 3 different contracts and I had to explain what the Minnows, the Dolphins, the Orcas are. If you think about it, it was 10 minutes per play, which is what I was pretty much going for. I just did a 30 so I can get everybody some business, right? I wanted to make sure that everybody could eat this weekend. Please hit the like, hit the subscribe, the notification bell. I don't post a lot of content, so I'm not going to be spamming you. However, if you do want to get spammed the plays, then become a member. Sign up to be a Minnow, a Dolphin, an Orca, an Angler, or a Megalodon, and we'll see you over there. Otherwise, you can find me at Keenan Grace's University. This Stocks for Real. Take care.